commemorating a mission that has strived for peace for decades. In the heart of the buffer zone, United Nations personnel from the headquarters and the Mobile Force Reserve came together this morning to pay tribute to all the peacekeepers of the past and present, to the 184 troops who lost their lives serving on this divided island.
But we stand here today to remember those who over 50 years have served the cause of peace in this place.
On the 4th of March 1964, the UN Security Council adopted Resolution 186, calling for the creation of a UN peacekeeping force in Cyprus. 50 years on, the mission is still in place. Today's Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon thanked the 32 countries that have contributed. Chief of Staff Angus Loudon read out his statement.
On this special occasion, I wish to express my gratitude to the 32 countries that have contributed either troops or police or both to the mission. I am confident that this 50th anniversary will provide much needed impetus to the ongoing negotiations for a comprehensive, lasting.
Today's mission is looking ahead to the future, but all around it, personnel who serve here are surrounded by the past. The UN offices lie in the heart of the buffer zone, an untouched space scattered with buildings and relics of a different era. Nicosia's old airport stands boarded up. This is a no-man's land now between the Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot communities, a visual reminder of just how long it's been since the island was torn in two. In the early 1960s, Cyprus was a very different place. There was no buffer zone and the two sides weren't separated. Cyprus had just gained independence. The island was full of optimism, but it wasn't going to last for long. By 1963, the Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot leaders were struggling to implement their new constitution, and the relationship between the two sides started falling apart. Violence erupted on the streets. Heavy fighting, kidnappings and casualties were reported. And in March 1964, the United Nations took action. A resolution was passed and UNFICYP became operational as thousands of UN troops arrived on island to carry out patrols, negotiations and evacuations. Over the next 10 years, fighting eased off at times, but the military stance never wound down, and no one was expecting what happened next. On the 15th of July 1974, the National Guard staged a coup d'etat against the Cyprus government. Just 5 days later, the Turkish government launched a military operation, sending paratroopers into the north.
The very first paratroopers are now hitting Cyprus soil.
Fighting broke out, and the country was torn apart. On the 16th of August 1974, a ceasefire was called and the UN went out to record the location of the military lines. The Turkish Cypriot forces were in that tree line behind me at the time, and the Greek Cypriot forces were a few hundred metres away in the terminal building. They marked the ceasefire positions, representing the buffer zone that we know today. Every day the UN patrol and monitor activity on either side. Since it was formed, efforts to encourage negotiations have faltered many times. Despite the setbacks, the UN has never stopped trying to encourage talks. And on the 11th of February this year, leaders from both sides met again, ending 18 months of deadlock. Many hope for reconciliation, but others still find the past too painful. The future for the island is uncertain, but the UN personnel here today are committed to helping the two sides find a solution. And it's clear their role is just as important today as it was 50 years ago. Carla Prater, Forces News at Nicosia in Cyprus.